Okay, we're going to do a video course, and it's a two-part video course on oxygen therapies using hydrogen peroxide to remove parasitic feces. So, parasitic feces. Well, this is one of the major reasons why we would use oxygen therapy, is to oxidize some of the things inside you didn't even know you had. So, we're going to go over some of the ideas first and concepts of oxygen therapy. And oxygen therapy, remember, has been used for over 100 years. Oxygen therapy is when you go to the hospital and they just put oxygen in your nose, right? Oxygen therapy is maybe when you go into a hyperbaric chamber and you get compressed, forced oxygen in a pressurized system to increase the amount of oxygen in your system. You can also do ozone gas treatments, and we'll go over what ozone is, but ozone is different than oxygen. You can do an ozone treatment by taking pure ozone and injecting it into the vein, injecting it into areas of the body, which is not really done in the United States, is because it's a controversial therapy. And if you look this therapy up, you'll find out that there's a lot of bad rap on this to make you confused. And you should be. Most physicians are confused about oxygen therapy unless they've been approved by the authorities that say so, that this is safe and it does something. So the way we got to look at this is oxygen therapy is either done by a physician or it can be done by yourself. So we're going to show you a way to do oxygen therapy not into the hyperbaric chamber, not by doing a gas treatment, which I've had before, very effective. You're going to use a liquid therapy that I have done many times to be able to see if we can oxidize out the junk in your body. So let's talk about, first of all, parasites. We have a group here of about 11 people, and everybody here is fasting. You're on your second day of fasting right now. Some people maybe even more because you did a little bit before you came. Now, you have stopped a lot of the parasitic activity that was feeding off of your food. Remember, everything that lives and survives urinates and defecates. So this should be a concern if you have a parasite inside you. Why? It's because it's pooping inside you and peeing inside you and doing a lot of things that may make your cells become very toxic or confused with this type of poison. So there's been lots of research. How about, could it be possible that your sickness is the poop that is swimming around in your body from the things living in your body that shouldn't be? So right now, let's say yeast, mold, fungus, and candida, they're things that eat the food that you feed them. But, and we can get into this later, okay? But if you know the different levels of parasites, and we've done videos on this so you can see different categories of parasites, okay? The categories that we're talking about right now, that in day 7 to 14, these are the parasites we're going to be working on, which are the ones that are bigger, okay, than seeing them under a microscope. They're called macroscopic parasites versus microscopic. I need a microscope to see them. Macroscope, I can see them with my eye. So a lot of creatures, remember, drink your blood, like mosquitoes, bed bugs, okay? Anything that is an insect that drinks your blood, okay? Remember, poops on the outside, which is fine, but what are the things that are inside your body, pooping inside you, that are nuzzling, suckling blood inside your intestinal tract? Remember, you have pig tapeworm, pork tapeworm, fish tapeworm, all these different types of pretty weird parasitic shape-shifting creatures. And what they do is they change, like the rope parasite, changes from a gel Over time, it turns into this branched jellyfish. So when you're doing an enema and you see gel coming out, that may be the first stage of the rope parasite. Then you go ahead and see some of this sort of weird stuff that looks like a jellyfish. It's orange maybe. It doesn't, you don't even know what it is. It looks like caviar or something. But you're fasting, remember, it's not poop. Something's coming out. Then you got all of a sudden these other creatures, because they all basically, it takes about 10 years for the rope parasite, as they say, to be full grown. And full grown would mean that it would be approximately 3 to 6 feet long, and it would turn into this little snake that has a suction cup that's like an octopus, and it moves in your body. So when you hear your belly, when you're hungry, this thing moves with jet propulsion, and everybody here, I probably would say with certainty, has them. This is the most common parasite that I have seen in everybody. And it's not just one. You got a lot of them. I pooped out probably 20 or 30 pieces like this out of me when I was like maybe 15 years ago. And I was using incorrect protocols because I was doing killing, which we can. It's just not in the beginning. It's because you just get sick. Remember, if you kill any of these creatures inside you, that's why right now you're drying them out. You're taking, like you guys are fasting. That's why this therapy, in a sec, I'll show you guys basically what's going on, is that you're drying yourself out right now, and you got a lot of things dying inside you because they're not being fed. Yeast, mold, fungus, and candida, they need to constantly feed and replicate. So if they don't have it, it dies. And since it dies, then another creature inside your body that's basically going to eat that, because everything eats each other, because this is what it does. It cannibalizes inside. But there will be a day, in about 7 days, a lot of times, where people sometimes will throw up, is because now you have colony collapse. There's no one else to eat anything. So you have this hierarchy of parasites. Little ones die, the bigger ones eat it. The bigger ones die, the bigger ones on top of that eat it. Just like sort of like this kingdom outside here in the terrestrial plane. So when we devoid all of the debris in the gut, okay, now oxygen therapies are effective for you to do. Now the oxygen therapies are effective in barometric chambers and everything because basically you're just shoving oxygen inside your system. But the oxygen that you're going to take through liquids has to go through your alimentary canal. It has to go and be diversed into your intestinal tract. So you're going to take it in a different way. So now remember, everything, like I said, poops inside your system. That's another thing. But you have what's called autophagy going on right now. And autophagy means that you have cells that are just auto-destructing themselves. They're already injured and they're not getting fed. They're just, and they just die. Okay? This is a good thing. The problem is that you need to get this stuff out of your system. And so this therapy, as on part 2, I'll show you the dosages that I've used to be effective and to be safe. Is because if you look on the internet, and I've got about a 12-page description that I wrote here it'll be on the show notes, you will find out that most of the information you find on hydrogen peroxide or any of these types of treatments is very dangerous. And it is. You swallow. This is 35% hydrogen peroxide. This is a stabilized oxygen. Well, it is, but it doesn't have any stabilizers in it. Okay? There's all different types of hydrogen peroxide. This is hydrogen peroxide you just buy over the counter. This has stabilizers in it. You don't put this inside your body, but I see people all the time drinking this inside their body. I used to, 15, maybe 20 years ago, when I was playing around with oxygen therapy. I didn't know any better, so I'm just here to tell everybody, guys, don't do the stupid things I did, because these have a lot of stabilizers in them. And in here I show you what kind of stabilizers are in there, and you'll notice they don't say anything on the label that they even have stabilizers in here. The stabilizers are so this will last 6 months to a year, and I can take the top off and the air doesn't matter. It doesn't leave this. This is for cleaning. This is for using externally on your body if you like. Feet, external only. Now, this is a food grade product. Food grade means that's why it doesn't have the stabilizers in it. So you can ingest this or use it for cleaning purposes. This is used usually in the industrial age for cleaning purposes. It goes up to 90% strength. This is 35% strength, and I got this from the health food store, and this needs to be hidden away. This is dangerous stuff. And I'll show you a little experiment here in a sec with some dirt on what 35% hydrogen peroxide does. Remember, this oxidizes thing. So this is called a oxidation therapy, a bio-oxidation therapy, is because it's biological and it's going to oxidize pretty much anything it touches. So this, let's say if you took, and I'm not asking anybody to do any of this, remember, but this is, I worked in the hospital for 6 years in the emergency, and I've seen several people come in with hydrogen peroxide by putting this too strong a concentration and doing it in an enema. Drinking it down, foam coming up, throwing up, having, involuntary just throwing up. No, guys, this is a very dangerous product, 35%. And 35% is only used in a dilutional stage. You need to hide, look, it doesn't even have a top. This is dangerous stuff. It doesn't have a safety top on here. Okay? You can't buy this on Amazon. You can only buy a 12% maximum. But I'll show you how to dilute that. It's very simple, just a 1-to-3 ratio. But this is the product that we're going to use in a very, very low level and consistent use. Small amounts over time. A little bit more at a time, as long as you can handle it. Like I said, we'll go into the dosages. So what are the benefits of oxygen therapy? Think of it. Why would you even want to do this? Is because, remember, you are an aerobic person. You breathe air. This oxygen is going to give you an advancement in the amount of oxygen that your body can hold. If you have parasites in your system, they're pooping in your system, and they're causing your oxygen to go down. Oh, I feel tired all the time? Yeah. Well, why do you think? Your blood's poisoned. So this is going to help clean, especially right now. Remember, you got things dying in your system, and this is going to help oxidize it out. You'll notice when you do this therapy, you're going to get, if you're a man especially, you can pee in the toilet there, you get foam this big. And this is a lot of oxidation that happens. So what are the benefits of oxygen therapy? Remember, it boosts the level of the amount of oxygen in your system, and all of the pathogenic things that live in your body don't like oxygen. This is sort of like putting, like putting a supernatural amount of something that is good in your system to deter things that basically don't thrive in oxygen. So, there's a lot of research, what I put in my description here is because a lot of the research is done in Europe. And they use this a lot in Europe. And in the United States, they don't use it too much here. Okay, so you're going to have to do your own searching. But I found a lot of different, like Frank Schallenberger here, an MD, is known in the United States for treating AIDS patients with the holistic protocol, including ozone to oxidize, bio-oxidation therapies that have an effect on the human body in so many ways. Okay, ozone and hydrogen peroxide are antiviral. They stimulate the productions of white blood cells, okay, necessary for any type of infection that you have in your system. They increase the oxygen level in your system, the hemoglobin, disassociation of all the different types of garbage that swim inside your system. So what it's doing is sort of like cleaning your filters. It's taking out a lot of the things inside your body. It's like cleaning your blood, okay? So anyways, there's like a lot of different things. I won't go through them here, but the idea is that this therapy, we are specifically using it for, since you're fasting, is to reduce the amount of things in your system that are not only dying, because you're not feeding them, but also the things in your system that have accumulated, what we call, I just call parasite feces in your system. And you'll notice a lot of people, they sweat, they got marks that come out of their body, they have really smelly sweat. Could it be possible that that's urine coming out of your system from whatever's living in your system? And this is why the sweat is very important. Doing sauna, when you do any of the fasting protocols we're doing now, the sauna is your best friend. Okay? Doing any of these therapies, each one individually is different. Okay, like I said, if you wanted to get petrochemicals out of your system, this isn't going to do it. Okay? That's another therapy. If you wanted to specifically work on the intestinal parasites, how are you going to do it? Not with this. This is a cleaner. This is a bio-oxidizer. So it's going to just clean up. So that's what we're really using it for. We're not using it for destruction, which it can be used for that too. Is there a difference between ozone, H2O2, and oxygen? Remember, oxygen is a stable molecule. Okay? Here's two hydrogens right here, and an oxygen. Okay? So you got two hydrogens, H2O. This is the air we're breathing right now. 20% of the air is made up of this stuff. Okay? Now H2O2 is H2, two hydrogens, O2, two oxygens. In time, this is how this therapy works. It's going to convert back to this, and this is thrown off. An extra oxygen is thrown off into your system to be processed by you. And when you do this therapy, I don't want to see you burping. What are you doing? Hold it in. There are some secrets to doing these therapies. A lot of people do these things and what are you doing? You're trying to keep the air inside you as much as you can. Oxygen wants to release itself. Remember, H2O2. This is the same as ozone. They're the same. That means it's got an extra oxygen. Ozone is, think of it this way. Ozone is a hydrogen, all right? You got 3 oxygen molecules, okay? And you've got, and ozone can go up to O2, O3, O4, O5, O6, O10. It can go up really high. So ozone is super, sometimes chaotic, and you don't know what you're getting a lot of times with ozone unless you go to a practitioner that understands exactly measured volume. So ozone, remember, is going to lose if it's an O4, because remember, H2O, it's going to lose its oxygens to become stable. Oxygen, remember, O2. If you have O3, that means one of the oxygen molecules has to go, and then O2 is the stable form, and it's in the air here. So the treatment is to have O3, which we can make with this machine. This makes O3, but it's dangerous. Why is this dangerous? Just to ask a question. Because a lot of people buy these ozone machines and they blow them in their house. In order to make pure ozone, you need to make it with pure oxygen. This is where I see a lot of people getting damaged. They're buying all these little machines inside their house to be able to blow ozone inside their house. That is not to be breathed. Why? It's because there's nitrosamines in there too. So when you try to make ozone, this goes into the water, right? 32 ounces of water, boom, it goes inside. You leave it in there for 15 minutes, and the water will just have ozone in it. But it's grabbing oxygen just from the air here. And the oxygen in the air is 20%. The air is also 79% nitrogen. So what it does is it takes in the air and it cracks not only the oxygen, but it cracks the nitrogen. And if you breathe that, you get sick. It'll burn your lungs. These are big problems. So I don't like using this. This is $300. Okay? You can use these safely, but I don't like using them. I like using a simpler model. Okay, because I burned my lungs with these lots of times. I used to smell this thing like this. Ah, it smells so good. Okay, dummy. Again, I'm a researcher. And you get sick, what do? You have to figure out, you have to backpedal. So the only thing I can tell people is don't waste your money and buy these types of machines. Don't buy, like, I'm not going to say the name of the companies, but there's a lot of companies that make ozone generator machines to put on your house all the time inside your house to go ahead and make it so it doesn't get mold. Those ozone generators are to be used when you leave the house, you lock up the whole place and you turn it on full bore for 4 or 5 hours. Then you come inside with a rag and you shut that thing off and open up every window and you go outside and let that thing air out. You do not breathe any of that stuff at all. So I've burned my lungs with this because a lot of people are trying to help themselves doing oxygen. Okay, so there is a difference. Ozone is a type of a treatment that basically, you should have some medical help with that. For sure. I wouldn't play around with it too much. Now, hydrogen peroxide, remember, you buy it over the counter. Piece of cake. You just have to figure out how to dilute it. And you know that never internally take a stabilized hydrogen peroxide internally. Okay? So, let's just go through just to make sure here. And you can just see here, look, This is just a picture here, but you can see the difference here between oxygen, which is just O2. It's got two of those guys, right? And ozone has three. So when you put this in your system, ozone is going to lose one of the oxygens to go back to its stable form of oxygen, and this is how it works. It's the same with hydrogen peroxide, but it's not a gas. It's as a liquid, so it's way safer. Okay, so is there a difference between food-grade hydrogen peroxide and regular hydrogen peroxide? Remember, we just went over that. One has stabilizers and it'll last pretty much a year. This one, if you open this up and leave this open, what do you think will happen to this after a couple of weeks? It's all gone. This is unstable. You have to keep, and I like to go ahead and store it like this. When I'm done with this, I squeeze as much oxygen as I can out of this thing and put it on really tight, because the more oxygen that's in here, the more oxidation. Remember, this stuff only works and has power until it gets weak. So the amount of hydrogen peroxide you put in basically has it's the amount of strength that you're going to get at the same time. So let me just make sure through the notes here. Now, there's a lot of good books for you to read on this too, just so you can get more familiar with this. So one of the books is Flood Your Body with Oxygen Therapy for Our Polluted World by Ed McCabe. And I'll put these again in the show notes. And these are in the descriptions. I'm putting these in here. Another one, a good one, is Oxygen Therapies and a New Way of Approaching Disease. Okay, again, Ed McCabe. And you know, he was a pioneer a little 20, 30 years ago in doing a lot of this oxygen therapy, and was crucified in a lot of different ways to be able to share with people you know, this information, and for other doctors to be able to use this. So I've seen miraculous results from oxygen therapy. So oxygen therapy, like I said, let's just show you here real quick. So this is 35%, and what I've got is I've just got some soil here. And like I said, if you get a drop of this in your eyeball, you can burn your cornea. If I put a drop of this on my skin, which we can use this for externally, for warts and different things like this, but there's a protocol on how to do it. What happens to it when it touches your skin?
Turns white.
Turns white. It burns it. You can get 2nd degree and 3rd degree burns from this. Okay?
How do you neutralize if that happens?
Water. Just basically, if you get anything on you right away, what do? Just dilute it. Just dilute it down. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of this in. This is 30. This is just a piece of, there, I'll just show you there. Dirt. And I'm just going to put a little hydrogen peroxide in here. And then right away, you can hear the bubbling. You can see what's going on. Okay, you can see it even smoking. And you can see, look at the dirt. Look what's going on. This stuff is, just get a view here. This stuff is oxidizing this dirt. And you can see, look at that thing working. Okay? So you can see if you drank that much inside your system, it may go ahead and burn a hole in your intestinal tract, because this stuff doesn't care what it oxidizes. It'll oxidize. Look, it's turning this dirt into mush. Okay, so remember, this is a powerful oxidizer. And it's going to just keep on working. Look, it's going to want to bulge out of the... And it smells like it's, you know, basically oxidizing this dirt. So, you know, I used to use this in plant experiments. And you can get plants to really grow very quickly with low amounts. Look at it, it's popping in there now. You hear that? Okay, you can get your plants to really grow good with low amounts, but if you give them too much, it'll also hurt them. So this is the same in your body too. This stuff is going to help you oxidize parasitic waste, but also some of the low-level pathogenic parasites that can't handle any oxygen at higher levels. It'll also help oxidize some of the parasite, some of the mucus that's around a lot of the parasites. This is sort of like helping like a snail that has a coating on the outside of it, and the only reason it can slither is because of its slime, and if you take away its slime, it can't slither anymore. like I said, part 2, we will go into the dosage part, and you can use this for many different ailments. The ailment that we're using it for, though, is not for treatment so much of parasites. Is for the cleansing of your intestinal tract. And since, like I said, you're fasting right now, this is the easiest way. Hey, this is the easiest way for you to be able to keep on fasting easier. Because a lot of times when you feel crappy, you feel sleepy, and you feel, it's because you got death inside your system. So when you do drink this in small amounts, as we show you, you're going to feel a lot of power inside your system. You may even get a little oxygen high. Okay, so there are some protocols, like I said, to follow. We'll do that on part 2. Let me just make sure I didn't forget anything. Any questions anybody has on besides dosage right now?
Where can you buy then the 35%?
The 35% you can get from a health food store. You can get it from a lab. If not, you just get 12% and you're going to use 3 times the dose. I'll show you in part 2 on that one. I do have some links on where you can go ahead and get that. I got that from the health food store here. And it's cheap. This whole bottle was like $20. And you can see, look, this is 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide. And we use this in different ways. I can put this in my ear with a certain type of therapy, but if I put 35% in my ear, I wouldn't have an eardrum left. Okay? I mean, if you really want to do an experiment, you can put 3% on your hands and just rub them like this and just sort of wait around for 10 minutes and feel little pricklies and such. And then you could go ahead and do that with 8% and do it again. You go, whoa, that's way stronger. And if you just did that with 35%, I used to play tricks on people like 20 years ago with this stuff. Hey, wash your hands with this stuff. And all of a sudden their hands would turn pure white and oxidized. And that was, of course, dumb. And it would hurt. You wouldn't burn your hands, though. But all of the pathogenic things, and most people's hands, remember, are pretty filthy. They turn pure white, if you've ever seen that. So don't do that. Yeah. And a lot of things that we use externally, you can't really buy anything industrial. Over the counter, you get 3%. That's all you get. So this is like for cleaning or whatever you want to use it for. Remember, they use OxiClean for your laundry detergent. Okay, it does help clean, and it does help oxidize even stuff in your clothes. Okay, we went over ozone, the difference in oxygen. Remember, you're just going to lose an oxygen, and that oxygen is going to go in your system. Your body's got to absorb it. And like I said, I'll leave a lot of links in between so you could go ahead and do further understanding, because this, like I said, is a very potent but very simple therapy when you're fasting. So if you were fasting, there's a lot of therapies that are going to be effective on you. If you were not fasting and doing this is not that effective. It's because you got too much debris in your system. You're still feeding a bunch of different creatures. Remember, you're trying to not just clean up the house a little bit. Now you're going to take it out and clean it and put the furniture back. Okay, that's why you're fasting and block fasting. So this therapy, though, can be done for several weeks, and it can be done in many different ways. I use this therapy before I go on a cardiovascular bike ride, if I'm going to exercise in the gym. I used to take an oxygen tank in the gym with me and go ahead and breathe on it. People go, what are you doing? Okay, I'm just breathing pure oxygen. Or I could go ahead and have myself a hyperoxygenated drink without food again. Okay, we'll just go ahead and do part 2 now. Any questions at all? No? Okay. Let's do part 2, and we'll start over.